"You're a shitty writer and you were a shitty guest speaker," Norville said. She was smiling, speaking faster and faster. Her voice had a nasal auctioneer's lilt. "You phoned in your talk the same way you phone in your stupid books. You were perfect for him and he was going to do someone, I know the signs. I sent you that way and it worked out right and I'm glad he fucked you. I don't know what you thought you were going to do, coming here, but this is what you get." She pulled the trigger and there was nothing but a dry click. Tess had taken lessons when she bought the gun, and the most important had been not to put a bullet in the chamber that would first fall under the hammer. Just in case the trigger was pulled by accident. An expression of almost comical surprise came over Norville's face. It made her young again. She looked down at the gun, and when she did, Tess drew the knife from the inside pocket of the jacket, stumbled forward, and jammed it up to the hilt in Norville's belly. The woman made a glassy ooh-ooh sound that tried to be a scream and failed. Tess's pistol dropped and Ramona staggered back against the wall, looking down at the handle of the knife. One flailing arm struck a rank of Hummel figures. They tumbled from the shelf and shattered on the floor. She made that ooh-ooh sound again. The front of the housecoat was still unstained, but blood began to patter from beneath its hem, onto Ramona Norville's man shoes. She put her hands on the haft of the knife, tried to tug it free, and made the ooh for the third time. She looked up at Tess, unbelieving. Tess looked back. She was remembering something that had happened on her 10th birthday. Her father had given her a slingshot, and she had gone out looking for things to shoot with it. At some point, 5 or 6 blocks from her house, she had seen a raggedy-eared stray dog rooting in a garbage can. She had put a small rock in her slingshot and fired at it, only meaning to scare the dog away, or so she told herself, but hitting it in the rump instead. The dog had made a miserable ike-ike-ike sound and run away, but before it did, it gave Tess a look of reproach she had never forgotten. She would have given anything to take that casual shot back, and she had never fired her slingshot at another living thing. She understood that killing was a part of life. She felt no compunction about swatting mosquitoes, put down traps when she saw mouse droppings in the cellar, and had eaten her fair share of Mickey D's quarter-pounders, But then she had believed she would never again be able to hurt something that way without feeling remorse or regret. She suffered neither in the living room of the house on Lacemaker Lane. Perhaps because, in the end, it had been self-defense. Or perhaps that wasn't it at all. "Ramona," she said, "I'm feeling a certain kinship to Richard Widmark right now." "This is what we do to squealers, honey." Norville was standing in a puddle of her own blood and her housecoat was at last blooming with blood poppies. Her face was pale. Her dark eyes were huge and glittery with shock. Her tongue came out and swiped slowly across her lower lip. "Now you can roll around for a long time, thinking it over, how would that be?" Norville began to slide. Her man's shoes made squittering sounds in the blood. She groped for one of the other shelves and pulled it off the wall. A platoon of Care Bears tilted forward and committed suicide. Although she still felt no regret or remorse, Tess found that, in spite of her big talk, she had very little inner Tommy Udo. She had no urge to watch or prolong Norville's suffering. She bent and picked up the .38. From the right front pocket of her cargo pants she removed the item she had taken from the kitchen drawer beside her stove. It was a quilted oven glove. It would silence a single pistol shot quite effectively, as long as the caliber wasn't too big. She had learned this while writing the Willow Grove Knitting Society Goes on a Mystery Cruise. "You don't understand." Norville's voice was a harsh whisper. "You can't do this. It's a mistake. Take me. Hospital. The mistake was yours." Tess pulled the oven glove over the pistol, which was in her right hand. "It was not having your son castrated as soon as you found out what he was." She put the oven glove against Ramona Norville's temple, turned her head slightly to one side, and pulled the trigger. There was a low, emphatic plus sound, like a big man clearing his throat. That was all. 35. She hadn't Googled Al Stroke's home address. She had been expecting to get that from Norville. But, as she had already reminded herself, things like this never went according to plan. What she had to do now was keep her wits about her and carry the job through to the end. Norville's home office was upstairs, in what had probably been meant as a spare bedroom. There were more Care Bears and Hummels here. There were also half a dozen framed pictures, but none of her sons, her main squeeze, or the late great Roscoe Strolk. These were autographed photos of writers who had spoken to the Brownbaggers.